Last lightning talk for the day, and then we're going to have some closing announcements, and then a block of unconferences and sort of hanging out in the social space. But our last talk of the day is Duke Dougal, who is going to talk about his search for a long-lost game.
Thanks so much. Lost in the Wilderness. This is the story of my 40-year quest to find Wilderness, a 1979 roguelike. So the story begins, of course, back in 1979 when I had just started high school. I was 11 years old and I was there with my older brother Paul, who was about 13 years old. He was the next year level up. And you can see here in the picture, this is the high school that we went to. And it looks more like Hogwarts than it does a high school. And in fact, it was a disused church that had been converted into being a high school. So that was certainly something a bit magical. But one of the things about it that was really magical was the science teacher. And the science teacher was a real character. He was a guy with a big bushy beard, a little bit eccentric, and he had a real passion for teaching science. And he had a science room that was full of chemicals and test tubes and Van de Graaff generators and oscilloscopes and all sorts of weird stuff. And one of the things that he did was that he actually bought, with his own money, a personal computer. Now, back in 1979 in Australia, most people had never even heard of what a computer was. And so it was just completely extraordinary that this science teacher had bought one with his own money. It would have cost him about a month's worth of his own salary to buy that. And then he brought it into the school for the kids to use. So he was trusting enough with this for the kids to use. And where it was located in the school, what you would do, you would go into the great hall that you see there, and you would go up to the back of the hall, and there was an altar there. And behind the altar, there was a little set of stairs, and you would creep down the set of stairs, and at the bottom of the set of stairs was a room called the Cuckoo's Nest. And inside the Cuckoo's Nest was this computer. And the computer was a fabulous machine. It was an Exidy Sorcerer computer, which is a Z80 machine. It's got no color, no sound, black and white, no graphics. By today's standards, it's not much to write home about, but we absolutely loved it. And Paul and I and all of our nerdy friends would spend as much time as we possibly could in the Cuckoo's Nest using the computer, using the Sorcerer and playing games. And of course, one of the games that we played was a game called Wilderness. And Wilderness was everything that you would now recognize to be a roguelike. It was swords and sorcery, it was treasure, it was magic, it was casting spells and scrolls, finding treasure, wandering through the wilderness, encountering random monsters, leveling up hit points. It was terrific. But of course, Paul and I ended up leaving that school. It was a school that only went for a couple of years, and Paul and I left that school and we moved on to other things, and life moved on, and the Exidy Sorcerer became an obsolete computer. But over the years, Paul and I continued to think about Wilderness, and we were nostalgic for Wilderness. And what we did was we continued to talk about it, and I searched for Wilderness for many years, and there was no sign of it anywhere on the internet. I would post messages in the forums, and you can see there's a picture. There was a strange thing I found, a YouTube video where a guy had actually made a video of his Exidy Sorcerer tapes, and one of the tapes said on it, Sorcerer Wilderness. So I knew it was out there. I posted a message to the thread there and he didn't reply. And then I started collecting vintage computers, and I collected vintage computers maybe for 15 years with no sign of an Exidy Sorcerer turning up. And I bought, and then eventually one day I saw on one of the local classified sites an Exidy Sorcerer came up for sale, and it was only down the road. So I nicked down the road, I gave them the money, I went and put all the equipment into my car, and I sat there and I thought, my God, I may have found Wilderness after all these years. And it was an incredible find, because it wasn't just the Exidy Sorcerer computer, it was also the expansion unit. It was 2 disk drives, a green screen monitor, and a whole bunch of floppy disks. And I took it all back home, and I turned on the Sorcerer, and bang, pop, and a smell of smoke. And of course, the 40-year-old capacitors hadn't survived that time. So I had to send the machine off to get it repaired. And when I got it back, I had to try again to get it fired up. So I got the machine fired up and started having a look through the discs. And of course, fortunately, on one of the discs, there was a file called wilder.bas, and I knew that it was found. And I loaded it up and ran it, and there it was in all its glory. After 40 years, I had found Wilderness. And I called my brother Paul, who now lives in London and is watching today. So g'day, Paul. I called him up and I said, Paul, I found Wilderness. And he couldn't believe, firstly, that I'd found it, that I'd gone to the trouble of digging it up and finding it, and also that I'd gone to the trouble to get it off, because I had to write a file transfer program to get it off the Exidy Sorcerer. So let's have a look at what Wilderness is like. Right, so without further delay, let's play Wilderness. We'll type in run because it's a basic program. We'll select beginner because as far as roguelikes go, this is a brutally difficult game. We've got some good stuff there. We've got a power, word, kill, scroll, and disintegrate scroll, two of the best. And the way you play the game is you hit A to advance through the wilderness, and it paints that little map. You can see you are the person in the middle of the map, and you're surrounded by trees. And as you advance through the wilderness, you can see other things appear on the map. That was a U, which was an entrance to the underworld. Other things like the F indicate a monster. We'll type ID to identify the monster. They're bats. Let's attack with our sword. Oh, we killed a bat and we just went up a level. So what you can do, you can type in EX to see the experience levels that you need to go up and how many experience points you need. You can type in PO, which gives a list of all the monsters in the game. There's all sorts of weird monsters there. There's Whelks, Negruthas, Korgungun, I don't even know how to pronounce that. And there's also, we can continue through the wilderness. And there is an entrance to the underworld. We'll type ID to enter the underworld. Entrance to underworld found, going down. Yes, we are. Now, the underworld in Wilderness is a strange thing because it's very much like the old game Hunt the Wumpus, in which you're told what room you're in and what rooms you can go to. So when you land in a room, you have to hit ID to see if there's other monsters there. And you say M/ and then the room number to go to a different room number. Type ID. This room has 4 big worm in it. We're going to be in big trouble unless we can cast some magic to sort them out. Let's read a scroll. We'll read a power word kill scroll. The power word killed 4 Greblies, and it's a funny thing about Wilderness. It calls monsters Greblies for some reason. Hard to understand, but there it is, and that is awesome. And we'll search, and that is a quick look at what Wilderness is about. Okay, and as a bonus, one other thing is that Paul and I actually, a few years later in 1984, mostly Paul wrote a version of Wilderness for our own home computer when we got one, which was a Commodore 64. I helped Paul write that. Strangely, it was preserved for all these years because I sent a printout of our version of Wilderness to a local computer magazine who printed it in the magazine. I kept a copy for all these years. And for the Roguelike Celebration 2020, I OCR'd it into a machine. I edited it to get all the bugs out, and I got it running just to give you a quick demo here. So let's have a quick look at Wilderness for the C64. So this is a very rapid look at the C64 version of Wilderness built by Paul and I, probably when we were about 13, 14, 15 or something on the C64 that we eventually got at home. So let's move through the wilderness. As you can see, it paints a very similar map to wilderness. There's a little person in the center. There's trees all around. You move through the wilderness. And as you move through the wilderness, monsters are likely to appear. Gremlins are in range. Let's attack with our sword. Chance to hit 74. We've killed the Gremlin. We gained XP. And let's keep moving through the wilderness. So there you go. That's the C64 version of Wilderness that Paul and I built way back in 1984. Okay, and the final mystery, who wrote Wilderness? I don't think we'll ever know. I couldn't find who wrote Wilderness in all of my research. There's nothing in the source code to indicate who wrote it, so that'll probably remain a mystery forever. The source code's on GitHub if you want to have a look. So thanks for listening and happy questing.
Thank you. That was wonderful. People in the chat are very excited that you were able to find it. And I think many people will go look at that source code on GitHub.
That is terrific.
Cool.